I was 21 when the forest stopped feeling friendly. Jack and I had been friends since high school, the kind who split gas money for trailheads and compared blisters like trophies. Early summer, we drove into a remote slice of California to repeat a week-long loop we'd loved before. Pines lifted into a pale sky, the air was sharp with resin and cold stone. On our second night, we pitched 2 small tents beside a narrow creek. Water braided itself over rocks, bright as a blade, and the world felt orderly, almost kind. We were cinching guy lines when the cadence of several boots moved through the leaves, steady, deliberate, wrong for animals. 3 men stepped between the trees. No packs. No bedrolls. Each carried a rifle with easy, practiced posture. Their smiles were polite and thin. We answered in the same careful tone people use when they're gauging exits. They asked if we were camping there. We said yes and asked if the spot was public. They said we were fine and drifted away without looking back, as if we were a landmark instead of people. Jack called them hunters. I said it was late for hunters without gear. We let the creek talk us into pretending it was nothing, though a hard idea kept prying under my ribs. In a place this empty, 2 lit tents were beacons anyone could walk toward. Hook. Somewhere deeper in the woods, a twig cracked, clean and precise like a key turning in a door that wasn't ours. I woke to shouting, layered, urgent voices thrown hard across timber. Jack whispered that he was awake. My watch glowed 2 a.m. The first gunshots punched through the dark. Another set followed, closer, a hard rhythm that erased the creek's whisper. My mouth went dry so fast I tasted metal. They're not hunting, Jack said. We unzipped with shaking hands. Headlamps. Water. A small knife we never expected to need. We slid west, staying low, letting the trees break our shapes into fragments. Night rearranged the trail. Every branch felt like reach, every root felt designed to roll an ankle. We moved for about half an hour and folded behind a wind-thrown pine, resin tacky under our sleeves. Voices rose and fell, drifting, then pressing near as if the hills were tilting them toward us. Shots came in bursts, then quiet, then more, like someone testing distance and direction. I pictured a flashlight beam skating across bark inches from my cheek and forced my breaths to count. In for 4, out for 6, do not panic. We didn't run. We listened. The forest breathed around us, sap, wet earth, the faint iron smell of cold water. Sometimes the yelling thinned, sometimes it swelled so close my calves hummed. Hours stretched. Dawn bled through the canopy and dimmed the terror without curing it. We stayed hidden, trading small words to prove we were still there and still ourselves. At noon, because daylight felt like armor even if it wasn't, we made a plan. Circle back, pack fast, walk out. When our campsite came into view, we stopped as if a wire had hooked our throats. The food bag hung in ribbons. Pots were dented into ugly ovals. Our tents slumped, each panel stamped with neat, cruel constellations of bullet holes. Nothing was stolen. Everything was judged. Whoever came wanted us scared, or gone. Hook. A breeze slid through the torn fabric so it seemed to inhale, a slow false breath that made my stomach drop. We took what would still hold weight, stove, filter, map, and stacked the rest in a careful heap that felt like an apology. Whoever visited wanted us rattled or erased. We chose gone. The walkout was slow by design, speed is loud. We measured progress in patient steps and swallowed most words. Sun-painted coins on the creek, cheerful in a way that made the wrongness louder. When a branch clicked, my shoulders turned to wire. When wind combed the needles, I saw rifles catching light. At the trailhead, the car looked absurdly normal, dust-dressed and waiting. We didn't speak until the pines thinned in the mirror. Why us? I asked, hating the shape of the question. Jack didn't answer. After that trip, I still loved the wild, but I trusted it differently. Remoteness isn't protection, it's privacy for anything that wants it. Some nights, when the street outside my apartment goes too quiet, I hear that practiced boot crunch playing in my head and feel tent canvas under my palms. We never filed a report. Part of me calls that a mistake, part of me calls it survival. The creek has already forgotten our names. The trail will carry other people in and out and tell them nothing. But the woods keep a ledger, and somewhere a thin line under that date says we nearly paid more than gear. If you set a tent by running water, breathe, listen longer than comfort allows, and choose your darkness with care. Before we left, I looked back at the creek one last time and understood it would not look back. Out there, the trees keep score, and they heard someone promise we wouldn't see morning. I'm 25, and hiking is the habit that makes the world feel arranged. Where I live, trails scribble the hills. A short drive buys a high view and quiet air. Most weekends I go alone, a knife in my pack because caution weighs less than regret, though I've never needed the blade. Late in the season I chased a new route into a forest I didn't know. I noticed the days shrinking on the drive and pretended it didn't matter. The woods met me with wet soil, resin on cold air, and a hush that felt attentive. By the far loop, dusk folded the canopy. The moon tried the needles and mostly failed. My flashlight tunneled through the dark while everything beyond it blurred into suggestion. Wind sifted branches like breath through cloth. Cold lifted from the ground, carrying the mineral smell of rock and the faint sweetness of decaying needles around me. Then a pale blink appeared ahead, not my beam, not the moon, just a brief coin of light. I raised my lamp. The glow vanished as if pinched out. Turning back meant more miles and deeper dark. Forward was the line to the lot, and to whatever had just decided to hide from me. Something out there knew my pace and matched it just beyond the edge of my light. Where the light had been, a duffel lay across the trail, zippers parted. I kept the beam on it while the trees seemed to gather. A shape unwound from a trunk. A man easily 6.5 feet, shoulders like stacked lumber. He watched my light find his chest and then, almost politely, brought a machete from behind his back. My stomach turned to chalk. Then my body decided before I could run. I pivoted and drove my legs the way you do in bad dreams. Branch tips raked my sleeves. Gravel skittered under my shoes. I risked a look and saw him moving with awful economy, blade low, the duffel abandoned like bait that had worked. I dropped my pack to buy speed and felt 10 pounds of certainty fall away with it. The trail unwound toward a break in the trees where the lot waited. I rehearsed the keys and ran until my lungs rasped. The clearing burst open. My car crouched at the gravel's edge. The doors answered the fob. I slid in, slammed locks, turned the key. Engine caught, lights rose, and in the mirror his stride lengthened into a final reach. The machete flashed once, and the car lurched as the rear corner dropped. He'd opened a tire before momentum carried me out of range. Hook. With every thump of the ruined wheel, I imagined another blade finding something softer than rubber. I nursed the car 5 miles on a sick rhythm, rim biting gravel, heart drumming back. Neighborhood lights replaced the forest's pressed dark. In my driveway I called the police and reported the trail, the duffel, the man. Part of me wanted the pack. It held gear and a version of myself that believed the woods were neutral. Another part knew the bag wasn't for me, it was for whoever would step close and read the invitation wrong. I didn't sleep. When sound fell out of the house, the absence grew loud, and a practiced boot crunch moved into memory. We never went back. Maybe that was smart. Maybe it was surrender. The creek will keep talking and the trees will keep their opinions. The road to the lot will keep receiving cars whose drivers trust daylight to mean a thing it doesn't. If you set foot there, carry light, notice what hides from yours, and decide how far you'll follow curiosity when it winks. I love the forest still, but now I love it like a stranger who smiles without showing their teeth. Before I shut my door that night, I pictured the duffel where I'd left it, zipper mouth open, patient as a trap. The darkness is always watching. If you want more stories that send chills down your spine, like, share and subscribe to Dark Echoes. Stay safe or don't, we'll see you next time. It was about 2 years ago when the forest stopped being a place of peace for me. I'd set out early, bag packed with food, water, and even a book, expecting nothing more than a long summer walk. The woodland stretched for miles with branching paths that coiled deeper into silence. That morning I decided to change my usual routine. Instead of sticking to the main trail, I cut down a bank that ran beside a river. From higher ground you could catch glimpses of the water flashing silver, but here at the bank you mostly just heard it, constant, muffled, and hidden. The air was heavier, damper, and it clung to me. It was more remote than anywhere else I had walked, and after 3 hours the isolation began to sink in. I kept trying to tell myself that this was exactly what I wanted: quiet, freedom, no interruptions. Yet a strange discomfort kept crawling over me. The deeper I went, the harder it became to shake the sensation of being watched. My eyes would flick behind me, scanning the empty path. Every time I convinced myself I was being paranoid, the feeling returned stronger. The woods were too quiet, the river too constant, like they were covering for something else. Hook. Somewhere behind me, a branch gave way with a crack far too deliberate for the breeze. I was convincing myself it was nothing when the world suddenly proved me wrong. A figure burst from the trees and landed in the path ahead of me. Cloaked, gloved, and masked. Not just any mask, an elongated crow's beak, like a plague doctor from some forgotten century. My body locked up. Every instinct screamed run, but I forced my face into something casual, desperate not to show fear. My voice came out thin. "Okay, good one. I'll just be on my way." The figure tilted its head slowly, like a bird studying prey. It didn't speak, didn't move, just turned its gaze to follow me as I edged around it. My skin crawled. I wanted to look forward, but temptation gnawed until I glanced back. The figure hadn't left. It stood exactly where I'd passed, its mask aimed directly at me. Then it lifted a hand and waved, slowly, deliberately. Not playful. Threatening. Something reckless inside me flared. Feeling safe in the distance I'd made, I lifted my middle finger. A mistake I regretted instantly. The stillness shattered. The figure lunged into a sprint, the beaked mask jarring, the cloak snapping around its legs. From its throat came guttural, animalistic sounds, half human, half something else. My legs exploded into motion. Adrenaline drowned reason. My breath sawed through my chest as I bolted, dodging roots, crashing through low branches. The sound of pursuit was unbearable, pounding footsteps, harsh cries echoing against the river. I thought, this is it. This is how it ends. But then the trees thinned. Light opened into a wide path where joggers and dog walkers moved in easy rhythm, oblivious to the nightmare I'd escaped. I stumbled out, gasping, terrified, yet overwhelmed with relief to see strangers who now felt like lifelines. Behind me, the woods had gone quiet again, as though nothing had ever happened. Somewhere past the tree line, I swore I could still hear the faint scrape of that beak mask turning toward me. Shaking, I warned everyone I passed, desperate to spread the alarm. Later, I caught a bus back into town, my body exhausted but my mind still wound-tight. The police were notified, but I doubted they would search deep enough into those tangled woods. At home, the relief was hollow. The image of that mask still hangs vivid in my memory. The slow wave, the unhinged run, the guttural noises that didn't belong in any human throat. I avoided that area from then on. I haven't stepped off the beaten track since. Sometimes I wonder if it was a prank, some twisted performance. But the weight of the fear I felt tells me otherwise. The forest that day showed me its other face. A face hidden beneath a crow's beak, waiting for someone foolish enough to wander too far. The river still runs there, carrying secrets downstream, but I'll never walk its bank again. Not when I can still feel the heat of breath closing in on my neck.